rare and balanced view on politics in today's world. Based on facts, born of rationality, common sense, and logic, providing context on today's events. This is American Perspective with Rick Thomas.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to American Perspective. I am your host. I'm chuckling because of something that was said in the chats. Anyway, all right. So Mark is out. Mark at Facebook. Well, we got two Marks on Facebook now. So this one in particular, Mark Lanham, I think, is out at IHOP with his Whiskey Musings shirt on. For those of you that don't know, this broadcast used to be called Whiskey Musings until I changed the name to more appropriately kind of set up, I guess, the way that I was planning on going, not to mention also, too, to try and attract much more attention to it. You know, I mean, come on, Whiskey Musings is sort of vague in terms of what, and most people thought that I was going to be doing nothing but talking about whiskey, which I did talk about whiskey a few times. But I wanted to get a name or a title that captured more of what this show was actually about. And so there it is. So anyway, there we go. And he was saying that if I want to click on his picture, oh, I see it. Okay, I see the picture. Yeah. So thank you for wearing wearing my logo out there, sir. Do appreciate it. Obviously, I mean, anything. Now, keep in mind, this particular show, I'm just going to tell you, I don't advertise other than on social media. And in terms of social media advertisement, I mean, it's really, for the most part, it's just kind of having an account. I mean, I don't really do any kind of advertising. So the number of people that have come here, this is literally a grassroots show. This is your show. This is a show that I put together and present to you. And if you don't like it, you don't watch it. And so, you know, as far as that goes, I appreciate every single one of you who are out there for all the work that you guys have done for putting out the show and advertising it and getting friends and other people to come and listen. You know, and I appreciate all of the work and everything that you guys do toward that end. You know, I would love to keep people to keep doing it. And so, you know, that to get this show and what I do presented, but you guys are my, basically my de facto marketing group. It's all by word of mouth. Everything that I have accomplished here for the most part has all been word of mouth. It's all been the hard work of you, my fans. And, yeah, so anyway, I mean, thank you. Thank everybody. Thank you for all of that. I do appreciate it. Okay, so let's go ahead and get this kicked off. This will be the NJY or NJT Girls Youth Band or something like that. Outlaw will correct me here in a minute. Tell me who it is. But anyway, they put together a musical rendition of the pledge. So let's go ahead and have them. Oh yeah, I know, Bam. I'll get to that. I'll get to that. I promise. But anyway, let's go ahead and get to the pledge. So please, if you are of mind, stand, remove your hats if you're wearing one. And if not, you know, make sure you put your hand over your heart and follow along with the NJY Youth Girls Band to do the Pledge of Allegiance, to lead us in it.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Yeah!
All right, and I thank you, ladies, for putting together that rendition. If you would like to hear your rendition of the pledge here on the program, it's actually, well, I consider it fairly simple, but it isn't that hard. And people have helped other people to do it, so you might be able to get somebody to help you. But basically, all you have to do is record yourself doing the Pledge of Allegiance in your style. Then take that audio file that's created by whatever program that you're using to record it, take that audio file and attach it to an email and send that email off to fans, F-A-N-S, at americanperspective.online. That's fans at americanperspective.online. And I'll get your rendition into the rotation. As soon as I can. Oh my gosh. You know what? In fact, now let me see. Do I have it? I do have it. Guess what? This is a new, I gotta give props. This is a new graphic that was put together by Judge Wild for me. And I've been waiting to work, waiting to use this. And right now the chat is exactly what this is. So pay attention to right over here in this corner and look at the new graphic, folks. There it is. Yes, folks, my chat is nuts. Oh, I've been waiting to use that graphic for a while. So yeah, my chat is nuts. Oh, if you guys go crazy, that I'm guarantee. Now I only have that on a couple of screens, but if you guys go crazy over there, I'm gonna be hitting that. So keep an eye open for that one. But I've been waiting for that. My chat is nuts. Oh, these guys are going crazy. I'm gonna tell you, they're fantastic. I love all you guys. But yeah, you're having way too much fun. All right, let's get into the show. I've got, obviously, the first segment of the show is On This Day in American History. And, of course, for On This Day in American History, we read from the American Patriots Almanac, written by William J. Bennett and John T.E. Cribb. Chock full. Look at how thick this thing is. Chock full of information about our historical founding in our great country that we call home. Tonight, we're going to talk about the opening of the Erie Canal. On October 26, 1825, a floating parade led by the canal packet Seneca Chief left Buffalo, New York, in the grand opening of the newly finished 363-mile Erie Canal. Cannons, spaced an earshot's distance apart, boomed the message east. The procession had begun. Cheering crowds lined the banks with bands, speeches, and fireworks welcoming the flotilla at every town. Our brightest, highest hopes are all consummated, the Rochester Telegraph proclaimed. Let the shouts of triumph be heard from Erie to the Atlantic. At Albany, the boats headed down the Hudson River to New York City, arriving on November 4th. There, Governor DeWitt Clinton poured a keg of Lake Erie water into the harbor, symbolizing the wedding of the waters between the Great Lakes and the ocean. The Erie Canal had taken nearly 9 years to construct. Skeptics had called it Clinton's Ditch, after the governor who championed the most ambitious engineering feat yet attempted in the United States. Workers had felled thousands of trees, leveled hills, blasted rock, dredged mud, dug through earth. They built 83 locks to raise and lower boats, a total of 565 feet between Albany and Buffalo, and 18 aqueducts to carry the waterway across the rivers. The canal proved a howling success, moving freight in thousands of mule-towed boats. The produce of the Midwest floated east, while immigrants and manufactured goods floated west, spurring the growth of the country. Along the canal, towns such as Syracuse and Rochester boomed, while New York City thrived as the busiest port in the nation. Railroads brought an end to the canal's heyday. The waterway was enlarged several times, but business gradually fell off. Today, it carries mostly recreational traffic and the memories of a time when the Erie Canal was the nation's main street to the west. And that is today's On This Day in American History. American ingenuity, entrepreneurship, fantastic. This is what we do, here in America. Elon Musk apparently had another feat occur. I mean, come on. It's ingenuity, entrepreneurship, a willingness to do things that other people say, nah, that can't be done. We look at them and go, yeah, right, just watch. That's America, folks. That is America. All right. Let me go ahead and tell you tonight I am drinking out of the Henry McKenna Kentucky straight bourbon whiskey. And of course, Bonnie's not here because she's watching football, but she can't yell at me for it. So there we go. And it's being drank out of my LuckyShotUSA.com. Lucky Shot USA, We the People glass. And you can see the stones in the bottom. And yes, it does take stones to drink with whiskey. So. Ah, there we go. There we go. Good stuff. Good stuff. All right. Let me see. I'm a little discombobulated. I went a little bit out of order, so just give me just a second. Let's go with tonight's sponsor. In the IOTC, the Institute on the Constitution was established in 2004 as a 501c3 nonprofit with one singular mission: to restore the constitutional republic through grassroots education. All courses and materials are developed using primary source documents and taught from the American view of law and government as defined in the Declaration of Independence in the following 3 key points. 1, there is a God. 2, our rights come from him. And 3, the purpose of civil government is to secure and protect our God-given rights. The IOTC offers the opportunity to educate yourself on our most precious founding document, the Constitution of the United States. They also provide tools to educate our community and get involved with local government. Start by taking their free U.S. Constitution course and go from there. Use my affiliate link, iotc.americanperspective.online, to sign up. And while you are there, take a moment to look through their other course material and information. My affiliate link, once again, is iotc.americanperspective.online to get great content to learn about our historical founding and support the show in the process. That's iotc.americanperspective.online. Or if you would just like to purchase this fabulous Saddleback leather-bound U.S. Constitution, go to constitution.americanperspective.online. Look at this thing. It's got 1/8 of an inch of Saddleback leather wrapped around pages that are water and tear resistant. And look at that binding, folks. No cheap glue here, man. They stitched all the way through the book and the leather to put it all together. It's got a 100-year warranty against materials and manufacturing defects, such that if something does go wrong, you can send it back to the manufacturer and they will either replace it or fix it or replace it for free. It is buddy tested, buddy approved, Billy tasted, Billy approved. And my youngest whiskey warrior has ensured that the contents contained within will help you to achieve your civics badge in Scouts. Go to constitution.americanperspective.online to get yours today. Also, too, go and check out the rest of the Institute on the Constitution's offerings as well. I am thankful that they are allowing me to be a brand affiliate. Hey, by the way, that Constitution, that pocket Constitution, great stocking stuffer, wink, wink, nod, nod. Anyway, Go to constitution.americanperspective.online to get yours. All right, let's get back to the show. Well, it's finally happened, folks. At least the start of it, anyway. Israel has finally struck Iran. They did it last night. And by certain accounts, it's not like this huge, like massive, what do we call it? It's not like this huge, massive strike. I mean, they didn't hit, as far as I can tell, they didn't hit like the oil fields or anything else, but they did hit some places in Lebanon. They hit some places in I think Yemen. So it's kind of Israel striking the Iran and their proxies in the Middle East. And so it was pretty much just a bombardment. The Israeli Defense Forces confirmed the news shortly after the strikes began. Again, nuclear sites and oil fields were not the target. They just sort of hit some other places. They didn't hit main positions, which, I mean, I'll be honest with you, I'm not exactly sure I agree with that, although I'm sure that had something to do with the Biden administration talking about it. But anyway, so they were just going up against military targets for the most part. They hit like some Iran Republican Guard barracks and those kinds of things. So yeah, it's just I don't think this is really going to escalate things. I think, I mean, to be honest with you, I think it's just more of a, hey, you hit us in the eye, and so we're going to hit you back in the eye kind of thing. I don't think it's like necessarily this big, huge deal that we need to be completely concerned about with it. Just because of the way that they sort of avoided like really big, huge, major, massive areas. So again, I think it's just a, hey, you fired at us, we're going to hit you, and in kind. So the headquarters and a barracks of the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps reportedly been hit in Tehran. In fact, some reports came out that that they basically, in Tehran, life returned to normal the next morning. It's like kids were going to school, people were going to work, whatever. So it wasn't like a huge deal, I don't think, overall. So not an incredible amount of news there on that front. I mean, they did hit them. They hit them in military it was military places only, and it wasn't really as big of an attack, I think, as others. But we have some new news coming out of Pennsylvania. And in particular, Lancaster County District Attorney Heather Adams announced that they found fraud among 2,500 voter registration forms submitted in this Pennsylvania county. Now, it's not only that Pennsylvania county, there's also a couple other Pennsylvania counties that they're starting to look at, because the same organization, and they haven't released or commented or even said any names as to who it is. And reportedly, it's both Republican and Democrat registration forms. Now, just to be completely clear on this, these are not ballots. These are just simply registration forms to, be able to vote. And from the report and from the briefing, it's basically there were some names that weren't verified. There were some signatures that weren't verified. There were some addresses that were fake addresses, things like that. But immediately the response from the left, because of the fact that Scott Pressler has been very active in Pennsylvania, as well as been very open with his activities on social media, the left immediately was like, ha, the Republicans, Scott Pressler is going to go to jail. He's, and they took pictures and they threw him, started saying, oh, they're throwing him under the bus. Well, no, I highly doubt that's going to happen. I mean, let's be completely honest here. The investigation is still ongoing. Again, as I said, it was both Republican and Democrat registrations. I highly doubt. I mean, I don't think that Scott Pressler was directly involved with Democrat registrations, although he could have been. I mean, I'm not going to say that I know for certain that he didn't register some Democrats, but yeah, I doubt Scott Pressler is going anywhere. The left just wanted to make it sound like, oh yeah, because Republicans have had a high registration rate in Pennsylvania. They wanted to make this like this huge deal, and it really isn't. It really isn't. Another thing that the left talked about as well, which, by the way, these stories that I'm telling you about, that one came out of let's see, what is it? WHYY, which is a PBS, ironically, a PBS and NPR website and radio broadcast, radio and TV center out there. So, yeah. So, but anyway, I highly doubt this is going to be a Scott Pressler problem. This is actually, there was some indication, by the way, there was some indication of the fact that this potentially was a money-making operation, meaning that these people were just signing people up because they were getting paid like $5 a sign up or whatever. So, yeah, it's, yeah, I don't think, I honestly don't think it's going to be, but I mean, we don't know. We honestly don't know at this point. But it doesn't sound like, and in fact, the Republican Party, the Republican Party in Pennsylvania put out a press release saying that the people that are involved, and obviously they haven't been quite identified, but they were described. And so the description did not match, the Republican Party's, sign up people. The Democrat Party wasn't quite that specific. They just said that they don't believe that it's theirs either. So it's very likely this could be some third party, activist group that just signed people up to get money. I don't know, to get paid, or it could have been like a subcontractor or something like that. So I wouldn't put necessarily a whole bunch of shall we say, vitriol into it, whether it's Democrat or Republican. I mean, stuff like this happens all the time, unfortunately. And so it's not, it's not the situation here for that. Also too, I personally here in my neck of the woods, there was a report that came out just today by our local Cairo News that they found some ballots that had been taken out of a local mailbox and tossed into a ditch. Somebody had seen those ballots, picked them all up and turned them in. And so, I'm being told by Outlaw Dogs that Scott Pressler registered everyone to vote regardless of party. So he just was registering everyone, which is fine. I mean, whatever. I didn't think that he wouldn't do it, but anyway. So yeah, so as far as that goes, they found some ballots. They found them in the ditch. Who knows how they got out there? There's going to be some sort of an investigation, but again, since we're all mail-in balloting, that's, they have access to stuff like that. So, it could have been I hope it wasn't a mail person that did it. I'm hoping that they'll find that maybe somebody picked the lock on a postal, drop-off box or something like that. But yeah, you're going to hear stuff like that. You're going to hear all those kinds of things. This is all going to start coming out, over the course of the next week or two, because even that'll carry on after the election. We'll get all of the stories after the election as well. So just be prepared for stuff like that. All right. So Kamala Harris held 2 big rallies recently. Well, let me rephrase that. Held 2 big free concerts recently. One in Georgia, the other in, I think it was Houston, Texas. Now, the one in Georgia actually had Bruce Springsteen come and play. And Bruce Springsteen, of course, played prior to Kamala Harris coming out and giving her speech. And, well, let's just say that there's some footage here in the Daily Fetched. And keep in mind, too, that a lot of the left on the socials, they were all sitting there going, yeah, we have massive amounts of people that are here. They're all for, Kamala Harris. Everybody's here for Kamala Harris. Not exactly. See, whenever you bring in like superstars and concerts and promise to have people play for you, and play a free concert, people hear free concert. And that's exactly what happened, especially here in Georgia with the concert, the Springsteen concert happening before Kamala Harris spoke. Well, here in the Daily Fetched, and there's video of it, Kamala Harris's rally in Atlanta, Georgia featured the free performance of Bruce Springsteen, captured attendees getting up and leaving after the musician had finished. So again, here we are. Again, you bring in a free concert, they all jump in, and what do? Well, they give their free concert, and then people leave. And if you want, you can head over to the Daily Fetched. I've got the link of this article in the description of the videos, so you can go and take a look at that on all of my outlets. And you can take a look at some of the posts from places like, Aaron Rupar, things like that. And here's the thing is that, of course, what's her name? Kamala Harris. Thank you. Kamala Harris relies on propaganda and Hollywood glitz to get her. Yet Trump doesn't do the same thing. I mean, Trump goes to be and is Trump. And that's it, and you go and listen to Trump. So that's, of course, the social medias get on this wars, the MAGA crowd versus the leftist, back and forth, blah, blah, blah. But when you have free concerts like this, that's what the people are going to see. Now, the one Beyonce's concert, I think people thought they were going to get a free Beyonce concert. And guess what? She apparently didn't sing. And people were coming out of that rally pissed. They were mad. And there's reports coming out of people being mad that she didn't even bother to sing, that it was just her being there. Now, reportedly, I did see a report, don't know for sure, but I did see a report that Willie Nelson was also there. I don't know if he sang or not. But the thing is that, when you promise free concerts and you don't deliver, well, that's going to reflect negatively. Yeah. So, yeah. Anyway, and even apparently, by the way, too, there are some people who were saying that the Springsteen concert, and I didn't see it. I didn't watch it. I don't want to see it or watch it. But apparently some people were saying that the Springsteen concert wasn't even all that great. So, yeah. But anyway, yeah, Kamala Harris trying to drum up what support she can in the little over a week that we have left in this election cycle. Now, the biggest news, and you remember, of course, that it's a CNN town hall. Kamala Harris kind of made a comment about Donald Trump not showing up in the CNN town hall. Okay. And what ended up happening is she kind of sort of crashed and burned. And also, too, was the fact that they kind of made a comment about how Donald Trump wasn't at the CNN town hall. Well, obviously, the story of the week was Donald Trump was going to sit down with Joe Rogan. Now, Joe Rogan is by far the #1 podcaster in the podcasting space. Now, the Joe Rogan show is about 3 hours long, and it's a little difficult for somebody like Kamala Harris to sit down that long and answer questions extemporaneously off script for 3 hours. But guess what? Donald Trump did it. He sat down. And one of the things that's kind of interesting too is if you recall, Joe Rogan doesn't necessarily, he isn't like all political either, by the way. I mean, he'll ask different questions. He'll ask questions, about the individual. Like he and Elon were there. And I don't know this for certain, so don't quote me on this, but I believe they actually smoked a joint together. But anyway, I don't watch Joe Rogan, so I don't know. But the thing about it is, though, is that you go on Joe Rogan and it's an unscripted, extemporaneous kind of thing. Joe Rogan just asks the questions that he wants to ask, so on and so forth. And that's the way it goes. And either it comes out as being, fantastic spontaneity, and other times it can possibly be a flop. In this particular case, though, I think Donald Trump did just fine. All right. So there's a bit of a review here in Fox News about it. Trump appeared on Joe Rogan's podcast for nearly 3 hours, and here are some of the top moments that Fox kind of put out. Okay. The first one is Trump reveals the biggest mistake he made during his first term. Now, Trump told Rogan that he regretted some of the appointments that he made in his first term. I'll be honest with you, I am glad to see that he is at least admitting this, because I always thought that was going to be, when he went in his first term, I thought that was going to be a bit of a downfall of his. I wasn't entirely convinced in his first term, although I didn't really speak this out loud, but I wasn't entirely convinced on his first term that he was going to be able to bridge the gap between civilian business world and government, in the government world very cleanly. Believe me, having worked in a space where we covered both civilian contracts as well as some government contracts, there is a big difference between dealing with the civilian world and dealing with the government world. And I had a funny feeling when he first went in the first time, being a complete outsider, that Trump was going to have a problem in 2016 with this. Well, at least, and by the way, too, after he got voted out, quote unquote, lost in 2020, I always wondered whether or not this was going to be something high on his list, should he have the opportunity to come back in as the president. Well, I'm glad to hear that he's at least pointed out that he regretted some of the appointments that he made. I've told you on this program, I think this next round that he does coming in to this space again, he needs to just completely bring in outsiders who have a clear, concise understanding of the Constitution and the operation of government, but they need to be patriotic outsiders. You cannot depend, and I think we've seen this, you cannot depend on any of the bureaucratic insiders that are currently in DC. Okay. So that being said, he just needs to, clear the entire space, just clear it completely out of the way, clear out all of the bureaucrats and put in patriotic outsiders like himself who might come from the business world. And that honestly would fundamentally reshape government, at least from the executive branch. Now, whether or not he actually does that, I don't know. We'll see. He has mentioned in the past, although it hasn't been clearly covered by the mainstream media or even any of the other outlets, he always mentioned in the past, he's like, I made some choices. I listened to some people. They had me hire some people, so on and so forth. And it didn't quite work out the way that I was expecting, something along those lines. So there you go. But anyway, so Trump, in an ironic kind of, well, I say ironic, but it's not really ironic, but in a twist, let's say, Trump actually asked Rogan to explain why Trump is getting so much bad publicity. Well, and Rogan was honest with him. He's just said, you said a lot of wild shit. Well, okay. Yeah. You see, he does. I've told you this on the program. So that was perfect. All right. And they kind of laughed about it, So Trump made a comment about Bolton, about firing Bolton. And Trump was like, he described Phil Ruffin, who is apparently a fellow American businessman who had warned him that Bolton wasn't a bad guy, was a bad guy, but that Trump had already hired him in that particular space. And so, it's just one of those things where, what are we going to do here? But anyway, Trump did eventually use Bolton in a certain way, in the way that he thinks that he was, the best way that he could. He used Bolton in terms of having him stand in the room and deal with some people that were a little kind of crazy. And he would just have Bolton come in the room and he would use him to his advantage to make the opponent or the adversary think that he was going to bomb them or go to war with them or something like that. So he essentially used Bolton to enhance this image of, hey, I'm going to do just about anything. So you might want to calm down and listen to what I have to say and follow my instructions. Simple as that. Rogan, of course, Joe Rogan has mentioned this in the past, where Joe Rogan has told people where he's like, Republicans, and I've seen clips of his show with other people. He's like, Republicans are the ones that are the anti-establishment, the rebels, the ones that are, the ones that are, the rebels, the so on and so forth. They're the ones that are the outsiders. They're the ones that are the anti-establishment. I think I already said that. And, Trump has turned the Republicans into the anti-government or, as far as like anti-government, current government, let's put it that way. He's not wrong in that assessment. And I mean, I'm a strict constitutionalist by my own admission. So there's a lot that I think that government needs to cut away. But in terms of this entire situation is, like Rogan said, he says, the rebels are the Republicans now, though. Like, you want to be invisible. You want to be punk rock. You want to like buck the system. You're a conservative. He's like, that's how crazy it is. And then the liberals are now pro-silencing criticism. They're pro-censorship online. They come in regulating free speech and are now trying to regulate the First Amendment. Rogan said it's bananas to watch. And you're right. It is bananas to watch. So, yeah. So, Elon Musk on X kind of pointed that out. He responded to that clip, writing exactly in that. So there you go. Now in a bit of joking, okay, Trump says that he told North Korea's Kim Jong-un, just relax, go to the beach, take time off. Go and relax, go to the beach, and that kind of thing. So anyway, they did talk about RFK Jr. Now, one thing that I thought was kind of interesting, about, RFK Jr. and Trump talking about the appointment and stuff, is essentially that Trump did mention that he's got to be, quote, a little careful with RFK in terms of the environmental side of it. And he said, because, he doesn't like oil. He said, I love oil. He goes, I think just keep him out of the fire. So I'm going to keep him out of a little bit. I said, focus on health. Focus, you could do whatever you want, but I've got to be a little careful with what he called the liquid gold. So he apparently is aware, Trump is apparently aware by those statements, that RFK Jr., he's got to be like just a little cautious with this. Okay. Trump also blasted the botched Afghanistan withdrawal, and I completely agree with him here. Trump did mention to me the one strategic error, well, outside of like leaving those billions of dollars worth of equipment there, but Trump did blast them because they didn't use Bagram Air Base as their last location. Strategically speaking, anyone with any kind of a half of a strategic mind would know that Bagram was the better place to go. It was better equipped to handle the larger planes because it was built that way. It was better equipped from a protection standpoint because it was in a valley. It was far out from the city. It would have taken a lot, and there's not a whole hell of a lot of cover over there. So it would have taken, it would have been, strategically speaking, it would have been better defendable from a defensive posture. And again, you could get all of that military equipment out before, rather than just leaving it there. And apparently that's what he said, is that he told Mark Milley when he was talking about the Afghanistan withdrawal, he wanted to take off from Bagram. He wanted to, remove everything from Bagram. He wanted to take everything out of Bagram. That was his plan. And apparently Mark Milley essentially said, it's cheaper to just leave the shit there. Now notice that Mark Milley didn't mention the strategic significance of leaving all that equipment there. All he said was that it would be cheaper to leave it there. Well, the thing about it is just because it's cheaper doesn't mean it's right. Mark Milley is, and I personally hope that he gets fired, completely fired, if Trump gets back into office in November. Should Trump get back into office in November. I seriously think he needs to just basically clean out the entire top level of the Pentagon as well. I mean, these people, they should be thinking strategically, not monetarily. That's what generals are supposed to think about. They're supposed to figure out what's the most strategic and best, defense, offense, those kinds of things, and not worry about the money aspect of it. But anyway. Trump said that Miley told him, sir, it's cheaper to leave it. Well, why didn't you destroy it then? I mean, if it's cheaper to leave it, and that's the other thing that just kind of boggles my mind, because when I was in, when I was in the service and they told us that, we essentially were going to, whenever you were going to get overrun, before you surrender, drop a Willie Pete into your machine, destroy the equipment. And that way, if you are captured or killed, at least the equipment is not taken either. Now, granted, I worked on some stuff that probably shouldn't have fallen into the hands of the enemy no matter what. But that being said, they now have, we basically just equipped the Taliban for the next war, realistically, with all of the shit that we left over there. So, yeah. Anyway, he apparently questioned, Trump apparently questioned that and was like, he basically responded back to Milley's question about it's cheaper to get out and leave it. And Trump responded back and said, so you think it's cheaper to leave $150 million brand new airplane there than it is to fly it out with a tank of jet fuel, put it in Pakistan, or just fly it directly back? And he's like, it's cheaper to leave it. And I said, this guy's nuts. Trump added, I'm telling you, he was so stupid. He was so unwise. He was like an unwise man, and there was a number of them. So, yeah, he also recalled, by the way, that how he had talked to the chief negotiator, the Taliban's chief negotiator, and stuff like that. He told the story where he put in the picture and so on and so forth. And yeah. So anyway, Trump floats the idea of replacing a federal income tax with tariffs. Okay, so to be clear, the president does not have the power to decide taxes. Constitutionally, folks, and it sucks to say this, but that is 100% in Congress's control. Congress has the power to lay and collect taxes according to the Constitution. There is nothing that Trump can do about taxes. There's nothing that Kamala Harris can do about taxes. They can recommend tax cuts. They can work with Congress to advocate for tax cuts or tax hikes. But the reality of it is that entire piece sits within the legislature. So even though I hear Trump talking about, hey, we're going to put on tariffs, he's playing in an area that he's talking about being in an area that he constitutionally is not supposed to play in. And so this is one of the arguments that I have with both sides, regardless of whether it's Republican or Democrat. We have gotten to a point where we seem to have forgotten the way that our government is supposed to function. And so this entire idea of like getting rid of income tax, first of all, that is, again, constitutionally impossible without Congress to do it. And not to mention the fact that the 16th Amendment put in income taxes. So I get it. It's a talking point. It's a great talking point. It gives a lot of people incentive, people who are not as well versed with the Constitution and the way that our government is supposed to work. I get it. It's a talking point. It's a good talking point because it gets a lot of people excited. But the practical implications of actually implementing such a plan from the executive branch is going to be difficult from that perspective, because again, that is entirely on Congress constitutionally to do. All right. Apparently they kind of went out on an otherworldly excursion. That's the word I was looking for. So Trump Trump opened up with interviewing, where he talked about interviewing jet pilots who described seeing what looked like a ball that traveled 4 times faster than like an F-22. And that opened up the conversation to the subject of UFOs. And Trump does say, you know, well, it's not a great interest for me, but it is a little interest. He's like, I get that question as much as almost any question. Do you think that we have aliens coming, you know, flying around or whatever? And he's like, I mean, there's no reason not to think that Mars and all these planets don't have life. You know, he said. So anyway. So obviously the discussion kind of goes on, and Trump starts talking about Kamala Harris, comparing him to Hitler. And he pointed out that she is a very low IQ person. And she is. She is a very low IQ person. Totally low IQ. We know this because she can't speak without being told what to say. We know this. Which, by the way, just a little side note, I've been listening to Mark Levin. Mark Levin has been asking on his program, he's like, what actual cases has Kamala Harris herself tried as a prosecutor? And he's trying to, I think, in a way, allude to the fact that she may not have actually prosecuted cases. Her office prosecuted cases. But I don't think that she actually prosecuted cases, and neither does Mark Levin. He hasn't been able to find a single case where he was involved or where she was involved as the sole prosecutor or even the lead prosecutor. Apparently, that's what he claims. So we'll just have to kind of see where that goes. And yes. Mark over on Facebook goes, Mark Levin yells his podcast. Yes, he does. Mark Levin and even Ben Shapiro, they kind of have a voice that can be a little grating at times. I agree. But I listen to them mostly for their content and their knowledge. But anyway, so Rogan himself revealed, why he wanted Trump on his podcast. So Rogan acknowledged how Trump had appeared on his friend and fellow comedian Theo Vaughn's podcast in August. And Trump goes, well, is that why you called me to do this? And Joe Rogan said, no. Once they shot you, I was like, he's got to come in here. It's all about timing. I think our timing is perfect. And then he asks, do you even have a scar on your ear? You got anything on there? And Trump goes, I do. So right over here. And Rogan goes, oh, it's a tiny mark. And Trump said, yeah, it zinged right there. And Rogan goes, oh, well, it healed up pretty effing good. And Trump, of course, said, yeah, it's pretty good. Yeah, it's not like some of the wrestlers, some of the UFC fighters. It was sort of like a top shot, but it makes me a tougher guy. Now, that particular thing, again, sparked in the left the whole thing of, how can Trump's ear have healed up so well? Well, I'm sorry, guys, but first of all, you don't know how much damage his ear actually took, number one. Number two, you got to remember Trump has the best doctors and probably the best plastic surgeons that money can buy on his payroll. So he probably said, hey, spare no expense. And that little nick is all that's left over that they couldn't replace or fix. So I'm sorry, but he got hit. Everybody knows he got hit. There's photographic and video evidence that he got hit. It's not fake. Okay. Trump actually got hit, period. End of story. Just like January 6th was not an armed insurrection or any kind of insurrection at all. Okay. It's just, it's known fact now. So lefties, give it up. It's over with. Now, one thing that I do want to address is the fact that Joe Rogan, who is fairly middle of the road with his stuff, he did offer for Kamala Harris to go on the Joe Rogan podcast. She turned it down. And this article in Hollywood in Toto suggests that the reason why is because of the fact that the Kamala Harris campaign literally knows that she cannot handle speaking off script extemporaneously, and that they are trying to keep her from that happening. Well, the article kind of rambles on. It's a good article to read. You don't get me wrong, but there was a video in it that I think is very, very important for all of you people who are talking about the idea, and by that, I mean all you lefties that are out there that are talking about the idea that Trump is Hitler, okay? I want you to listen to this video, and sorry, I'm going to back it up here. This was posted by Clay Travis. This is a 97-year-old actual Auschwitz camp survivor who is also a Trump voter. And he's got some things to say to Kamala Harris about comparing Trump to Hitler. Let's take a look. Okay, hold on. Hate it when that happens. I need to reset. There it is. All right, let's go ahead and let's try it again.
My name is Jerry Wartsky. I'm 94 years old and survivor of Auschwitz and the death marches. Adolf Hitler invaded Poland when I was 9 years old. He murdered my parents and most of our family. I know more about Hitler than Kamala will ever know in 1,000 lifetimes. For her to accuse President Trump of being like Hitler is the worst thing I've ever heard in my 75 years living in the United States. I know President Trump, and he would never say this, and Kamala Harris knows this. She owes my parents and everybody else who was murdered by Hitler an apology for repeating this lie.
Why should the Jewish people support President Trump?
Because he's a mensch. I believe that President Trump is definitely going to be good for Israel, because in everything that he's done up to now was in favor. He never double-crossed anyone, and he never showed any weakness. Watching President Trump pray for the hostages at the Ohel and getting to spend time with him so meaningful. He has always stood with the Jewish people and the state of Israel.
Now, obviously, at the end, just to make it clear to my audio listeners, that was a Trump-Vance ad. But the fact of the matter is, this guy, and he shows you in the video, for those that didn't see it, couldn't see it, he shows you his tattoo on his arm from being in the concentration camps. He demonstrates to you that he is the real deal. And he's calling Kamala Harris out and saying, you don't get it. Donald Trump, which, by the way, Donald Trump is the most pro-Israel president that we have had in modern history. And I kind of hate to say it, he's even more pro-Israel than like Ronald Reagan was. But this man who has seen death staring literally right at him every single day, to call out Kamala Harris for her vitriol, her rhetoric, which is all false, by the way, this video needs to be sent everywhere. And all of you freaking leftist Democrat morons, and yeah, I'm going to say that because that is what you are. You are morons. To sit here and call out Trump and say Trump is like Hitler. Trump isn't even close to Hitler. Trump's not Hitler. He's not going to be Hitler. He wasn't before. He won't again. He actually respects the Constitution, unlike Kamala Harris. And this guy is calling you out for it. He's telling you right now that you are wrong. That Trump isn't even close to Hitler. And I saw that and I was like, you know what? I got to play it on the program. I got to play it on the program. I'm telling you people, 2024, this is the most consequential vote election in my lifetime. It is the most consequential. If we do not win this, we are likely to lose our country forever. Because once it is gone, it is highly unlikely that we will ever get it back. We are at the precipice here, folks. So you need to go and make sure that if you haven't voted yet, vote. Go vote. Go vote. Vote, vote, vote. In other words, execute, execute, execute. Bring 10 friends with you. Okay? Tommy Young over on Facebook says, you'll have nothing and you'll be happy. That's their motto. Yeah, well, it's a little bit more than that, I think, but that kind of sums it up pretty good. Okay, so let me take a short break here before I move on to the next set of essential articles and things. And I know that I'm running out of time here, but that's okay. We'll get on with what we are. By the way, too, I have a great question of the week this week. So anyway, I see some of my people in the chat are like, I already voted. I voted. Well, did you encourage others to vote? There you go. Thank you for voting. Seriously. Thank you for voting. Thank you for voting early. We need to bank those votes. We need to get them banked and everything else and by the way, too, I'm not going to use the mail. I have my ballot filled out. All right. My ballot is filled out. I'm just waiting for my daughter to finish hers, and then we'll take all three up to the ballot box, the drop box at our county office in order to drop them off. I'm not going to trust. I'm not trusting the mail system, as you can see with that story that I told you earlier about all the ballots being pulled out of the mailboxes. All right. So let me tell you about this wonderful shirt that I'm wearing. This is the We the People cotton, 100% cotton polo. You can kind of see it right here. It's We the People. It's got an eagle head on it. It's got the Constitution, the Constitution written on it, and so on and so forth. And I'm just going to tell you right now, you can get a shirt for yourself, your wife, your significant other, your kids. You can get accessories, all patriotic, red, white, and blue at theflagshirt.com. That's theflagshirt.com. And believe me, this is run by it's veteran owned. It's a veteran owned shirt company. In fact, believe it or not, I actually saw somebody, a guy, the SR-71 pilot had the Declaration of Independence shirt that I have on in one of the videos where he's talking about the SR-71 speed check, the LA speed check. But anyway, so essentially go to theflagshirt.com and find your styles. You can, purchase them right there online. They ship them right out of Florida, and it's fantastic, fantastic quality. Great shirts. They're all patriotic. I love the 100% cotton polos. I've got 5 or 6 of them. You see me wear them on the show. There's t-shirts. There's some things that are specific for veterans. There's just all kinds of stuff there. You can go and check it out, theflagshirt.com. And if you order $75 or more of their product, they will give you free shipping. Also, too, if you don't want to order $75 or more, I'm going to give you a specific code. I'm going to give you a little bit of help. If you go to flagshirt.americanperspective.online, that's flagshirt.americanperspective.online, you will be presented with a coupon code. Take that coupon code, copy it, put it and paste it into the promo code box at checkout at theflagshirt.com when you're getting ready to order, and you will get $5 off of your order on American Perspective. Go to flagshirt.americanperspective.online to get that coupon code to enter in the promo box at checkout at theflagshirt.com to get yourself $5 off your order. go to theflagshirt.com and get yourself patriotized. All right, folks. Well, I'm going to tell you too, okay, also, with the unrest that I am expecting and the challenges that I'm expecting between the announcement of the winner from Election Day, so figure the first, week in November, because keep in mind, even if Arizona takes forever to do their ballots, they will probably already know the winner. If it comes down to where 6 electoral votes or 11 electoral votes, if that's what it is in Arizona, means nothing to the winner. If the winner has already gotten, 49 states already counted and Arizona says, yeah, well, we're going to take another couple of weeks to get ours. Well, guess what? It won't matter. If 49 other states already have all of their stuff counted and the actual electoral vote count is already a runaway, and it doesn't matter. Somebody's already reached 270 and above and 11 votes or whatever it is that Arizona has, doesn't matter. So don't worry about the fact that they're saying that it could take up to 2 weeks for them to count their votes. It probably won't matter any if everything else comes in, okay? But I guarantee you, between Election Day, especially if Trump gets the win, you're going to see a huge amount of unrest, not only here in the United States. This is my prediction. Not only here in the United States, but also across the world, okay? And what I'm telling you is that during those 2 months, also, too, you will see this administration try and push through a whole bunch of legislation. They are going to do their best. You'll see the Senate kick into gear. You'll see the House of Representatives, the Democrats will start proposing all kinds of rules and everything else. The only thing that's going to be stopping that is the fact that the Senate and the House are controlled by the different parties. But still, you're going to be seeing all kinds of stuff kicking into gear because they're going to try and push through their agendas before the administration changes over, before everything changes over in January. Well, one of the things that they keep doing, even though it is unconstitutional to do so, they keep pushing this idea, and this coming from the Epoch Times, they keep pushing this idea that the federal government can do student loan bailouts. Okay. And by the way, I've been chastised. Arizona has 11 electoral votes. But anyway, the point being is that the Epoch Times is now saying that the federal government proposes more student loan bailouts for 8 million borrowers. They're trying to push this idea that you're going to get these student loan bailouts. Well, don't forget, the Supreme Court's already told the Biden administration they couldn't do this. And there's another lawsuit that's working its way up to the Supreme Court that is doing it for the second series. And so now the Education Department is trying to change a rule that's going to benefit those with medical bills, child care costs, other financial hardships, etc. And they're looking to cancel more student loans and get rid of student loan debt. Hopefully this gets challenged in court as well and will eventually get crashed and burned, because it is unconstitutional for this. It's already been done. It's already said, we've already said no, and it's the power of the purse. Congress has the power of the purse, constitutionally speaking. So Congress could wipe that out, but not the executive branch. And see, this again is part of the problem. This is why we have so many people believing that the executive branch has something like the power of the king, which it doesn't. It is literally at the whim and will of Congress, because Congress makes the laws. The executive branch has to execute and enforce those laws as written. They are not supposed to make changes, create law, modify law, interpret law incorrectly. They're not supposed to do any of that. And we finally, thankfully, have a Supreme Court that seems to at least kind of lean back toward that constitutional roots. Well, one of the things that came out of the disastrous CNN town hall that I want to point out is Kamala Harris made a comment about flooding the U.S. with millions of illegal aliens. She essentially said, we did the right thing. So Anderson Cooper asked about the failure to implement an executive order that would have alleviated the crisis on the southern border. Now, keep in mind, I've told you on this program, and this is completely true, the Immigration and Naturalization Act has provisions that basically says the president has carte blanche to shut the border down for any group, any type of migrant, anything, any way that he or she wants to classify it for any length of time. They have the entire carte blanche command because Congress has written it in statute to basically say that the president can shut down the border at any time. And that's been proven. Biden did it just 6 months ago, even though he dragged his feet for the 3 years prior or 2.5 years prior. Well, Cooper asked Kamala Harris, why didn't your administration do that in 2022 or 2023? And she actually said, first of all, you're exactly right, Anderson. And as of today, we cut the flow of immigration by over half. And Cooper, thankfully, he actually did a little bit of his job. He pressed further and said, well, but if it was that easy with that executive action, why not do it in 2022 and 2023? And Kamala Harris was like, because we were working with Congress and hoping that actually we could have a long-term fix to the problem instead of a short-term fix. Okay, I just told you the president could shut the border at any time for any length of time that he or she wishes. Yeah. So Cooper asked and pressed again and said, wait, you couldn't have done the executive order and worked with Congress at the same time. And Harris, of course, responded back by shifting the blame to Congress about it. And Cooper asks, do you wish you'd have done those executive orders in 2022 and 2023? And here Harris responded, I think we did the right thing. Well, here's the problem. Her doing the right thing allowed for stuff like this to happen. So remember this going in on Election Day, if you are voting in person on Election Day. Aurora authorities, this is Fox News, Aurora authorities knew about the Tren de Aragua problem over a year ago, documents show. Aurora Council member Danielle Jurinsky says frontline cops are fed up. Now, she presented documentation that the police and the council knew that the Tren de Aragua gangs were infiltrating apartment complexes and hotels and were a big issue a year ago. But yet the Democrats are sitting here saying, oh, no, even the mayor of the city or whoever's in charge was saying, oh, no. This isn't a problem. This isn't a problem. But yet they have documentation that basically shows that, yeah, these gangs were imported here. They've gone out to Aurora. They were imported into Denver. They moved out into Aurora and they started causing problems. And we knew about it for over a year and did nothing. Folks, this is Democrats America right here. This is what they want. They want this. Well, even worse, okay, according to the American Military News, we have illegal aliens that have now exposed people in the U.S. to a deadly virus. So Department of Homeland Security, Alejandro Mayorkas, the most worthless guy in the Biden administration, next to perhaps Merrick Garland. I don't know. I can't figure out which one's one and which one's two. They both suck. But anyway, he's now being sued by the state of Louisiana over accusations that the Biden-Harris administration, let's cut that back, it's actually the Harris border czar administration, allowed an illegal alien from China to enter the United States and expose hundreds of individuals to a deadly tuberculosis virus. So their lawsuit claims that Mayorkas acted through his official capacity and allowed the illegal alien, and yeah, I'm changing the word immigrant to alien, with TB to be housed in multiple Immigration and Customs Enforcement Center facilities. The lawsuit claims that the illegal alien has caused an emergency situation in Louisiana due to the potential for the Chinese national to spread a, quote, rare, aggressive, and drug-resistant form of tuberculosis, which carries high mortality rates. Yeah, so that's something that we have to look at. All right. And not only that, so you have those two, but also, sorry, I want to take a look at this really quick. So you have those two, but you also have all of the issues that going on in Ohio, as well as, by the way, there have been some real estate agents and real estate organizations that have analyzed the housing crisis problem. And, you know, Vance is correct. When Vance was debating Tim Walz, he had talked about how the immigration crisis has exacerbated and helped to create the housing crisis that we have in America right now. They've actually done analyses where they have shown that the massive amounts of immigrants that are coming in here and the fact that they are being basically government is handing them loans for houses to be able to buy them, that is causing the housing shortage for Americans. Now, keep in mind, those analyses that are going on, they talk about only having like 4 million or 5 million that have come in. We have, prior to this whole opening of the border, which is somewhere around 10 to 12 million that have come in, but we have possibly 20 million all totaled when you start to count everybody that was coming in even before the Biden-Harris administration opened up the border. So this is a huge problem for these people. Okay. And I'm just telling you, if you do not want illegal immigration to be a problem past 2024, you need to vote Trump. You need to vote Trump Vance, and you need to help him out by putting all Republicans into both the Senate and the House. We need to capture all three 100% to be able to fix the disaster that the Democrats have done here. Now, one thing that I want to tell you about, so I keep getting into arguments, discussions, whatever you want to call them, with morons on social media outlets. And I keep telling those same morons, I'm like, look, Wikipedia, anybody, I'm just going to tell you right now, anybody who depends on Wikipedia as the arbiter of some information, okay? Oh, wow. Anyway, anyone who believes that Wikipedia is like the arbiter of truth and information, no, it's not. It's not even close. It's not even close. And by the way, it spends a lot of time doing propaganda too. All right. And so this article came out in the Daily Wire. Wikipedia's editors colluded to delegitimize Israel and spread radical Islamist propaganda, according to a report. The efforts to undermine Israel in the online encyclopedia included Tech for Palestine, which runs a 8,000-member Discord group. Since October 7th, roughly 40 Wikipedia editors have worked to delegitimize Israel, present radical Islamist groups in a favorable light, and position fringe academic views on the Israel-Palestine conflict as mainstream over the past few years. Okay? Dozens of editors of the Wikipedia site have coordinated to promote radical Islamist ideas and undercut the Jewish state on the popular online encyclopedia, according to Pirate Wires. In addition to the editors, the group Tech for Palestine made a similar push to propagandize Wikipedia's pages, though the group stopped its efforts once they were discovered. So, the Pirate Wires report stated a separate but complementary campaign launched after October 7th and staged from an 8,000 member strong Discord group called Tech for Palestine employed common tech modalities, ticket creation, strategy planning sessions, group audio, office hour chats to alter over 100 articles. Okay. Wikipedia is a joke, as King Nothing points out over on Rumble. Wikipedia is a joke. Don't trust Wikipedia. In fact, if I end up quoting Wikipedia on this show, shoot me, please. I will never, I'm telling you right now, I will never, ever do this. This is, I mean, Wikipedia, come on. Wikipedia is a shite site. Now, they may point to good articles, so you may go into Wikipedia and use it to maybe springboard to like an actual article or something like that, possibly. But Wikipedia by itself, yeah, don't even believe it. And by the way, the reason why universities and academic institutions do not use Wikipedia is for this reason. It's for this reason. Okay? This is why. Because they have, I mean, again, Wikipedia is like open source. You can just go in and change whatever article that you want and say, and make it say whatever you want. So, yeah. Tommy over on Facebook says, Bongino says that if you reference that, talking to him, he will block or hang up on you. I agree. You reference Wikipedia, and I'm the same way. It's like the minute somebody references Wikipedia, I'm just like, yeah, you're not a serious person. You don't do any kind of research. Same thing if somebody goes, well, go to Google. No, don't. I mean, again, you can use Google, but don't quote Google. I mean, use Google to kind of filter out certain things, but keep in mind that Google itself, obviously manipulates the search results. So you can't just depend on Google by itself. This is part of the reason why I think a lot of people don't research. They don't research that well because the vast majority, especially all of the Democrats, the vast majority are essentially morons who just want surface level information. I am far from that, by the way. Far from that. All right. Well, I appreciate all you guys hanging in here on the broadcast. In fact, I want to give a shout out to the 43 people over on X. Thank you. Welcome. The 7 folks on Facebook watching. I do appreciate that. And of course, let me see what I have. I have about 30 people watching on Rumble right now. Thank you all. I do appreciate that. Puts me over 100 people watching at once. That is fantastic. Thank you very, very much. I do appreciate that. All right, let's get on to tonight's question of the week. Alrighty. Oh, I just was told by Tommy there's actually 8 watching on Facebook because G is actually over on Facebook. So anyway, thank you all. And again, I just say thank you all for that. All right. The question of the week, and this one's a really good one here, people. Really good one. This comes in from Bonnie, who unfortunately isn't here. She's going to have to watch this tomorrow. She's going to have to watch this tomorrow because she's watching football. I don't know why football would be more entertaining than me, but okay, whatever. No, she's good. She's a longtime Whiskey Warrior P1. Love her. Love her. All right. She says, good evening. My question is, please explain the DoD Directive 5240.01 and the Posse Comitatus Act of, now she calls it out as 2020. I'm going to correct that here in just a minute. Should we be concerned? And then she goes, thank you for always teaching us history. Signed, Bonnie. Well, Bonnie, first of all, just to answer that, the Posse Comitatus Act is actually not out of 2020. The Posse Comitatus Act was a response after the Civil War, because what happened is the Civil War went ahead and caused the military to be used in civilian affairs. After the Civil War, the Union Army went into several of the southern states and unfortunately went and started hanging people, Confederates, whether it was soldiers or whatever, and they kind of got a little out of hand. And so what ended up happening is the Posse Comitatus Act was passed in 1878. This was after the end of the Reconstruction period, and it essentially made it that Congress by itself went ahead and made it so that it would ensure that the federal military would not be used at all to intervene in the establishment of any of like the Jim Crow laws, former Confederacy stuff. Also, it is designed for the purpose of making sure that the military does not actually operate on U.S. soil. Now, there is a loophole to that, and by loophole I mean that there is a separate law that kind of says this is the exception to the rule. But first, let me go ahead and read to you really quick. The Posse Comitatus Act is summed up in one singular paragraph in Title 18 U.S. Code 1385, which is right here. Okay. The use of the Army, Navy, Marine Corps, Air Force, and Space Force as Posse Comitatus. Now, the term Posse Comitatus comes from, like you see in the old Westerns, where a U.S. Marshal or a town marshal or whatever, the local law enforcement would go and get a posse together. That basically meant that it was getting together a force that would essentially intervene in legal matters. And that is essentially what it is here for this, but it's summed up in one paragraph. It says, whoever, except in cases and under circumstances expressly authorized by the Constitution or Act of Congress, willfully uses any part of the Army, Navy, Marine Corps, Space Force, or Air Force as a posse comitatus or otherwise to execute the laws shall be fined under this title or imprisoned not more than 2 years or both. Okay. So basically, again, like I keep telling people, the regular Army in particular, the regular U.S. forces, the regular U.S. military forces cannot, period, under any circumstances, be used on U.S. soil against civilians. All right. Now, the thing about it is, though, is there is this thing known as the Insurrection Act. Now, the Insurrection Act, which was passed in 1807 originally, and the law itself is actually a conglomeration or a combination of different statutes that were enacted by Congress between 1792 and all the way up to 1871. Now, the Insurrection Act allows for the military, now hold on, it's not the regular military, but allows for the military to be used in civilian police affairs if, and only if, it is declared, and there's certain conditions under which it can be declared, insurrection can be declared by the president, and the civilian person in charge In other words, the governors in the states, okay, as well as Congress for DC, if they ask for military assistance, then and only then can it be approved for those folks, for the military. And keep in mind, this is only the National Guard that statutorily has this capability. It is not the regular Army. And this is part of the reason why, and I've said this before on the program, this is part of the reason why you see the National Guard get called up for things like hurricane relief, for things like helping out in, say, Ferguson for the riots, okay? This is all being done as a part of the laws under the Insurrection Act, okay? But the Posse Comitatus Act just straightly forbids, no matter what, it just forbids the regular military from operating against civilians on American soil, okay? Now, the Insurrection Act covers Title 10, U.S. Code 251 to 254B, and has had been renamed and all this other stuff. And basically what it says that, and here, I'll show it to you. So basically what it says is that whenever there is an insurrection in any state against its government, the president may, upon request of its legislature, meaning the state legislature or its governor, if the legislature itself cannot be convened, call into federal service such of the militia of other states in the number requested by that state, and used such an armed force as he considers necessary to suppress the insurrection. Now, Becky over on Facebook asks, what about allowing UN forces in? They can't come in. They're not allowed. Unless, I mean, they literally, if they were to land on our soil, constitutionally speaking, they should be completely repelled. They should be viewed as a foreign force and completely repelled. Now, let's get to the, to this directive that you're talking about. Here it is. Here's the directive. Now, first of all, keep in mind the directive itself, okay, is that the directive itself is that this is just a reiteration or a reclassification of some details that consistently come out from the DOD all the time. All right. But there's some key things. Now, the thing that caused this to blow up in the social medias is, first of all, RFK Jr. called it out. Second of all, there is a paragraph in here that talks about the use of force against civilians. However, that paragraph is deep within this document and does not take into account the very first part of the document where the rules are specifically lined out as to when this directive comes into effect. And that's what I'm going to show you right now. So this right here, as soon as I can get to it. So this is the policy, and under the policy, and tells you right here, this is under paragraph K in the first section under policy, and it says, the defense intelligence components will only conduct or provide support, and I'm reading right here, by the way, for the conduct of covert activities under the following, and they don't say this, but I'm telling you just so you understand contextually what it means, under the following activities. 1, in times of war declared by Congress. That's constitutional. Talks about during a period covered by a report from the president or Congress in accordance with Public Law 93-148. Or when such actions have been approved by the president and directed by the Secretary of Defense. And then it says no civilian employee or member of the armed forces will engage in or conspire to engage in assassination. Then it continues on further down, and it basically says no defense or CI component will request any person or entity to undertake to undertake intelligence activities that do not follow, and it's got a bunch of procedures here, but it says, quote, use of such techniques to collect information about U.S. persons must, and this is in terms of the intelligence part, so intelligence gathering, so it must be limited to the least intrusive means feasible, and number 2, protect fully the rights of all U.S. persons, including civil liberties, privacy rights guaranteed by federal law. Okay, so here's the thing, people. All right, this is nothing to panic about. This is basically just a policy statement. It is clearly, just a clarification of a policy that is being presented and prescribed within the Department of Defense. It does not create any new laws. It does not modify any laws. It does not supersede any laws. This is nothing to really panic about. It really isn't. This is just a policy subscription or description, and it literally doesn't do anything that the law doesn't already say that they can do. Okay? So this is nothing to freak out about. It may down further in the thing, it may talk about, and I can't remember exactly where, but talks about the responsibilities and everything else. It may point out of what they are allowed to do, but they are only allowed to do those things if the prescribed laws, such as Posse Comitatus, Insurrection Act, and other things are falling into place prior to the implementation of any of these policies. There's nothing to freak out about. It really isn't. Okay. So just, now, obviously keep in mind, caveat emptor, buyer beware. This means that if they decide to throw the law out and not follow the law, well, of course, then it could be a bit of a problem. But at that point, I don't think you're necessarily going to be worrying about some sort of a policy that the DOD has put together. At that point, it's basically just that we're in civil war and blah, blah, blah. Not saying that we're going to be there, but just saying. Violation of the law, of course, is the first thing. But this DOD directive, it's nothing to get upset about. It's nothing to be concerned about. It's just a reiteration of a policy that has been put out for the DOD, acting in as prescribed under law. That's essentially all it is. All right, folks, I see I have gone over my time. My wonderful Mrs. Whiskey just poked her nose in. Huh? Oh. So anyway, yeah, just whatever. She just came in to let me know. So anyway, let me go ahead and tell you all, thank you all for coming. I do appreciate that. Hopefully that answers your question, Bonnie, by the way. If you would like to submit your question of the week, you can do so by sending it to fans, F-A-N-S, at AmericanPerspective.online. That's fans, F-A-N-S, at AmericanPerspective.online. Also, too, don't forget, head on over to rumble.com, get yourself an account. It is completely free. And once you sign in, make sure that you follow the American Perspective channel there. And that way you hit that green follow button. That way you can get notified every time I go live. Also, too, make sure you hit all of those thumbs up and like buttons and everything across all of my outlets, whether it's YouTube, Facebook, Rumble, obviously, and X. We will see you on Monday, 5 p.m. Pacific, 8 p.m. Eastern time, right here on American Perspective. I do appreciate all you all coming. Have a wonderful rest of your weekend. We'll see you on Monday. Good night, everybody.
The previous broadcast was produced and is owned by Active Eye Media LLC. All rights reserved.